And we are now being recorded.
Okay, everyone. This is, as I said before, this is our largest gathering so far, so that's really exciting. And we actually have several items on our agenda this morning. We've got, I'll list them really quickly in case people don't know what they are. We have top bugs and enhancements of interest, a conference recap, 2017 new koha members / mentorship, and bugs, putting bug testing into your own routine, and also a resolution. So that's a pretty full agenda. So Mr. Brannon, the awesome Mr. Brannon, submitted most of those because he is awesome and extremely active. So yeah, definitely applause. So I don't know if you want to talk about, if you want to start off, say what you wanted to say about the top bugs and enhancements of interest. There are a lot out there.
And Chris, I did mute everybody, so you'll have to unmute yourself so we can hear you.
Yeah, Mr. Brannon. There you go.
I don't know how to unmute things here. Okay, I haven't had to do that before. Are we recording it?
Yes, we are.
Okay, that's weird. It doesn't show it. Okay. So yeah, I just, I threw out ideas for this meeting. I think it is a very good idea for the user group to not do just things about the annual conference, but have other things on the agenda, such as top bugs, things that we want to see moving along. We as a community, if we're all on board with it, what needs to be fixed or what needs to be enhanced, should be active on Bugzilla, as we have preached at the conference, to get that bug moving along. We need to be participating in conversations, and we also need to be at least being CC'd in that bug so that they can see that there are a lot of people interested in it. And if down the road, when we become a nonprofit organization, maybe it's something that we contribute in together on some of the top bugs. So
yes. I think I know it takes some dedication to set aside time to go in and make comments on bugs and participate. You just have to schedule it in.
Sometimes all it takes, if you're connected to that bug, you're getting some emails about some activity on it, and if you see something that piques your interest, like, yeah, I'd like to see that happen, click the link on there and say, yeah, I'd like to see that happen, or I don't know, that's kind of weird, that kind of goes off course, or whatever. It doesn't have to be long-winded.
Yes. Let's see. Basically, you can just jump in really quickly and add yourself to that CC, and like you said, get notification whenever anybody does something on that bug. I don't know, is it just mentioning it enough to people to encourage it, or?
Well, I think, at least, there should be some discussion generated here about the things that are concerning people. We need to be able to talk about it, and if we're talking about it, that may generate more activity on those particular bugs, but we need to bring them to attention. Not everybody has the time to go through and sift through and see, oh, what's this bug about, and what's this bug about? We gotta talk about these things, the things that we're dealing with as a user group, and help each other on those things.
So we should put it as a standing item on our agenda.
I think so.
That will encourage folks to submit a top bug or bugs so that we can discuss them when we meet. So I think that's a great idea.
So is there some sort of newsletter that is letting us know? I mean, do we have something monthly that we're sending out with the list of important things that we're following? That might be a good idea as well.
We've been trying to do kind of a monthly reminder email with the agenda and things. I think that would probably be a good spot for that personally. Since we're sending it out already, we can, do you have agenda items? These are the kinds of things we're looking at this month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Chris Davis sends that out, and I don't see him here today, but he could probably collect that. We could just, if you have stuff you want to discuss, send it to Chris Davis, and he should be able to put it all together, and he sends out that reminder email anyway. So,
yeah.
Would that be?
Did Chris say he wasn't going to make it?
Yeah, he had something going on.
Okay.
But that's why I'm, assigning stuff to him. Don't show up. That's what happens.
Yeah, that's a tradition.
Yeah.
Sure, great to see all the new faces here.
It's amazing. Okay, a conference recap. If we're done with bug and unless you have something.
Before we move on, are there bugs or issues in Koha that people wanted to bring up or talk about real quick, just briefly? Doesn't have to be long-winded. Just bringing particular bugs that you're trying to watch the progress on.
So I'll just get us started then. We're doing 2 bugs that we're following closely right now. We've got the holds on multiple items on a bib record. And people should check that out because that's been yo-yoing a bit and I think needs some QA. And the other one is the 9XX ordering, which I talked to some of you about at the conference. And that is, I'm really just waiting to set up that bug on a test server that I can use EDI with, and then we can see to make sure that those 9XX, those item orders are being created. But that's another good one to look at to get kind of an idea of that exchange, because there's the bug and there's response, and then there's a response to the response, and everything kind of gets sorted out as the bug goes on. So,
do you have the bug numbers for those?
I will look right now. Yeah. So the bug, the ability to place multiple holds is 14695, and the 9XX has a funny name. So I am going to just find that I don't have it bookmarked on this. 15503. I think that's 15503. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I'm making it a goal. When we're talking about bugs, can't necessarily look at all of them during the meeting, but I'm certainly going to look them up, and if there's anything of interest or something that I have questions about, I can bring it up at the next meeting, or any of you can do that. So it would be great to generate more conversation about those.
And I threw the bug numbers in the chat window in case people want to see them in print and grab them from there.
Is anybody taking minutes, by the way? I forgot to ask.
Well, Mr. Davis would be doing that.
Will he just do that from the recording?
What he's done in the past is watch the recording and taken minutes from there. So
okay, excellent.
Yes, okay. Yeah, those are 2 really good bugs I'm interested in too, so that's a good start. All right, so are there any other bugs of interest or enhancements? Okay.
One thing I'm going to put it, and we don't have to talk about it much more, but I'll put it in the chat, which is I've started updating the wiki with some developments that we're interested in pursuing. And I'll drop that link in the wiki. But people, we should start talking about some of those, or start, contacting each other or me I've got it under draft development brainstorming, but it's on the developments to consider page. I'll drop the link here in the chat so everybody can see it. So how do I do that? There we go.
Okay.
So on this topic, I have a question for the group. Is anybody here using the, let's see here, I'm trying to remember names. I always use different names. I describe it rather than give the actual name. There is a feature that lowers the loan period for items that are in high demand. I don't know if any of the attendees here are using that at their library. Okay. Well, if you decide to do it, we made some great enhancements for it to make it more flexible. However, and I don't have the bug number in front of me at the moment, but we discovered that there is a flaw in the reduced loan period. It apparently changes the time index on the due date. So it's due the correct date that it's supposed to reduce it down to, but it reduces it down to the exact time that you check it out instead of at the end of the day. So we've got a bug out there, and in fact, Nick Clemens, I believe he is the one that helped me track down pretty much the exact code that was causing a problem. I can't change the code myself. I'm not that savvy with coding, but we pretty much pointed to the problem and just need to find somebody that can actually touch it and write a patch for it. So. But it is a great feature. We've had a lot of libraries that will have new books, and they'll reduce the loan period manually on these items for 6 months or whatever. And it's a lot of work, especially for the libraries that have one employee. So we jumped onto this and added enhancements to make it even more robust. And it works great, other than it's making things due the middle of the day or the beginning of the day when people had checked them out. But means we don't have to touch records as much. We don't have to throw things into we throw them into a new category, but we don't have to change the loan periods on them. And so it's a lot less work for the small libraries. And a lot more people are kind of jumping in on this together. We're kind of meshing as a consortium, because those libraries that couldn't do it in the past, they'd have new items that were loaning for longer periods, and people were getting smart and savvy about that and putting holds on just those items that were checking out longer rather than the short loans. So this is making a huge difference.
Curious how you deal with that from a communication standpoint. Is the loan period changed before the user, when you hand them the due date slip, is that the time they have to return it, or does it change while they have it checked out?
It changes at checkout. Okay. So they don't know from the catalog, what the loan period is going to be exactly. They can see the original loan period, but their checkout slips, we've had information on our OPACs, but the checkout slips do say, please check your due dates, because high demand items will have a shorter loan period. But that is calculated at the time of checkout. And one of the enhancements that we added was the ability to override that short loan period. We have things like homebound patrons that can't deal with that short loan period, and we have a bookmobile that only gets to certain areas at a certain time, so they can't be there as frequently, and so they have to be able to override that short loan period as well. And so that made a huge difference.
Is it a set short loan period? So like if it's a high demand, it's a 1 week checkout?
Yeah, we actually we shorten it to 14 days. That's our short loan period. But yeah, we have it set so that it figures out how many items are available for holds for checkout. It dismisses anything that's lost or withdrawn. So we added a lot of that functionality to it, but before it was just if you had X amount of holds, it would shorten it, and that didn't make sense when you had 20 items available to place holds on. Mm-hmm. So it takes that into account, and it shortens it down to 14 days. It doesn't touch things that are already at 14 days or lower. So it's pretty smart about that. Although we do see the message pop up on 14-day items, things that are already 14-day. It pops up there. It doesn't hurt anything, but that's another thing that needs to be tweaked a little bit. It just needs to ignore the things that are the exact same loan period as the shortened date. But no, it's worked great.
Yeah, I can see that. It's pretty useful.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other bugs? Okay. So conference recap. Again, Mr. Awesome Christopher Brandon put that on there. So, although I know we all wanted to talk about it.
So, Robin, do you have the link that you can share, or can you share the information that was compiled from the feedback?
From the survey?
Yeah.
I probably do somewhere.
Let me see if I can pull it up here.
Yeah. I think that's the registration. Yep. Nope, that's not the one I wanted.
I actually had you resend that to me recently.
Mm-hmm. And I should have realized that we were going to talk about it, and I should have had it up. Aha, there it is. Under earlier this week, probably when I sent it to you. Okay. We got 19 responses. And I don't know, I can put the link to the responses in the chat window. You guys might be able to access it. Should be able to with the link, where you can see the pretty charts. And I thought the very first question, overall, how do you feel about this year's conference? Most people, everybody was either 4 or 5, with 5 being loved it and 4 being liked it a lot. So it seemed like we had some really, really positive responses from the survey. So I had not looked at it terribly recently.
The link that I'm getting here looks like, oh, there it is. Okay. So yeah, you have to head over to the responses. Okay. I didn't see
Oh,
it.
yeah, I'm sorry. I should have put that in there too. There's at the top of the page is questions, and then there's also responses. There are 19 responses there, and you can kind of go through the summaries and see what folks said.
The thing that I noticed most going through when I last looked at these, and I don't know if there was anything added since, but the thing that I noticed most was, Monterey just knocked themselves out. I really appreciated everything that Monterey did. The biggest challenges was, space and areas to break out in. I think those are some areas that we need to improve on, especially when we're requesting sites, that we need to make sure that we have ample space. I think the thing is, we didn't anticipate such a huge turnout this time. We grew. And that was a big thing. If we had been the same size that we had been in the past, I think it would have been
fine.
Better. Yeah.
But yeah, trying to manage breakouts with 60 people instead of 40 ended up being a challenge. And so
those are good problems, though.
But yeah, those are the kind of problems we want to have. So, yeah, I've heard a lot of excellent things about the venue. The folks at Monterey, the food was pretty consistently brought up as being amazing for the $20 that we all paid for it. So that was nice. But yeah, did anybody have anything specific that they wanted to mention about the conference, the recap?
Nope.
I'm just sorry I missed the last day. I had to leave, and I know that people were getting into bug testing, and I'm sure that went well. Was there a pretty good turnout, and did everybody seem to pick up on it? And was there a lot of good feedback on folks having interest then at going in and signing off on bugs or signing off on developments or whatever?
I think there was a much better turnout than we have had in the past. I think getting virtual boxes set up was so much better. Nick and providing those, whoever provided the flash drives with those virtual box setups made the process so much easier. I think the biggest challenge for us in the Hackfest is just having enough people that are really savvy with the stuff to be available to answer questions. I like the fact that we have a diverse set of things to focus on during the Hackfest rather than just bug squashing, because we had some other things going on around in the room, but not enough people to help with all of those. And so I think in the conferences to come, if we continue to go that route, we need to ask for people to step up to help guide those, so that we have more people able to help guide and get more people involved, rather than some people waiting for one person that knows this, and this, so that they can come around and get to it. So that's the biggest challenge.
I think it's fun that we were able to come in this setting and discuss bugs and what's happening with them. But ultimately what we need is people that can go in and they can test these patches, they can test these updates and upgrades. And so it feels sort of like sometimes it's absolutely necessary what you guys are talking about or what we're talking about in resolving these bugs. But getting those things tested and getting them pushed forward, I think that becomes the bottleneck. And keeping people up on that, and doing refresher classes, even if it's something that there's a great video that shows people how to step through something. I know we've got instructions on the wiki, but sending that out to the community and making sure that people are aware. And if there's a reoccurring sort of training or refresher training to keep people up on it, and just trying to get people motivated and getting them to step in and feel comfortable about that, I think is really going to be extremely helpful.
I think we've got two bottlenecks in the testing. If you're looking for bugs that are at your level of testing, that can be challenging in itself, just trying to find something that you can test. And I think that's something that the community can work on a little bit more down the road to make it easier for the people that are really skittish about testing in the first place. I need to go in there and see, okay, here's all the bugs that are at my level or whatever. If we were able to rate those bugs at skill level somehow, I don't know how we could do that, but if there were some way for them to know, okay, these are the set of bugs that I can go in and I know I can tackle, it'd make it easier on people easing themselves into it. The other bottleneck that I see is, for me, I've been able to set up virtual machines for some of the patches that require a little bit more hands-on that I can't do necessarily on the sandboxes. If I've gone for a little time without testing patches and I come back to it, I have to reset my environment a lot of times. Things have changed. I have to update Koha, and by the time I get that all done, I've lost a lot of time to do testing, and so that's a little bit of a challenge.
Can you envision any way that we could actually expedite that and make it a little quicker for people? So,
that's a good question. It's something that I still think about, and if I figure out anything or if I come up with ideas, I'll certainly mention it to the community. Right now, I'm not sure.
Maybe even just going to the community and asking, saying, hey, look, we'd like to get more into this, but right now as it is, it's a slower process than what allows for our work environment. Would love to be able to participate more, but can you guys think of a speedier way that this thing can be set up so we can start signing off on your books? Because it'd be kind of interesting even, and I know this might be quite a leap, but even in the libraries, if you're teaching any kind of programming or anything, or in local schools, going there and motivating kids, some of the things that even Bywater's doing right now with classmates at college level, where we actually offer people to have an instance of Koha. If that was something that we could even instigate, get people, even at the college level, especially programmers, people that do have that kind of an interest to go in and they can feel like they're a part of it and they can actually maybe put it on a resume. I don't know, we squash bugs, we work with Perl, yeah. So how can we start opening this up even outside of the community or people that are just new to the community?
Some of it is that you do need to have some development experience to do things like set up Git and do polls and everything. But I noticed that the OVA that Nick put together at the conference is in the Dropbox. And I think that kind of resource is a good start, which is, here's how to get the Koha master set up, and then to, apply these bugs or like Christopher said, to get some more hands-on testing and just making sure that's distributed. I think that was a really good start. And of course, the sandboxes are great too. There occasionally there's one or two things, or they're in some sort of flux, but that's another big one. But I think making sure that OVA is out there and keeps staying up to date with the master version, whether that's updating it once a month or maybe setting up a virtual server that has a big environment. I don't know.
Yikes.
Not sure what that is. Is that me?
Nope, I think it was Mr. Davis. I just muted him.
I think that going back to Todd's question, I think that the virtual boxes, those have really cut a lot of corners for those that want to do testing. The thing for me, I would stop using a virtual machine and use the sandbox if there was some mechanism in place with those sandboxes to do more of the back end tweaking for some of these patches where you have to get a process in motion that you can't do on the front end. At this point, the sandbox has its limitation, and that's what pushes me over to the virtual machine. If we could somehow advance the sandboxes to the point where we didn't need those virtual machines, it's going to make a huge difference in the testing community, because we're not going to be limited to whatever can work, whatever we can do on the sandbox. I just think that we need to develop and figure out a way to make some more of those back end processes happen, that we can tweak some stuff, or tell it to do something that we can't on the front end in order to get some of these patches more tested more on the sandboxes, make it less of a hassle for those that are testing and can't do it, on a dedicated schedule like, our more dedicated programmers can.
The other thing I was wondering about is if once we get some bugs that are of concern to more people, that people might team up and have like a meetup, kind of not like this, but with like 2 or 3 or 4 people. Somebody that's knowledgeable can, get a test instance going, and then the other people can kind of help with the testing or sign off or whatever. You can get several people to sign off or test or whatever. I don't know. But I agree with what you're saying. I mean, sometimes you can't make the sandbox do what you want it to do, and setting up your own instance and loading a bunch of data in order to set it up so that you can make it do what you want it to do can be really difficult.
Yeah.
But the more people involved, the less work individuals.
Yeah, I would say, Todd, the concrete takeaway is if there was some sort of sandbox plus, full Koha environments that allowed either a longer time or some, like Christopher said, some more of the back-end access to do testing of bugs that would need a little more attention that the sandbox wouldn't work for. Whether that's something hosted in the Rackspace servers or if there was a library that had access to that kind of thing. So that would be my suggestion for an actionable item, I guess.
Yeah.
How many people here throughout the course of the day are logged into the Koha IRC? Most people, not that much. Fred, you are?
Occasionally.
Okay.
I am occasionally. I'm trying to keep it up more so that I'm online. Usually I pop in there when I have questions and pop back out, and I'm trying to break that habit.
Yeah, me too. Guilty.
Ben, this is Nate. So you're saying Sandbox Plus, so like you're looking for like command line access in the back end more?
Yeah, I think that's what Christopher's talking about.
Like command line server functions?
Right.
Yeah, because you're working on some of those patches, and they say, well, you need to run this, and I can't run those things on a sandbox, and that's a roadblock. And if you're getting started in patch testing, you see something that you want to do and you want to work on it, and you say, oh yeah, I can. Oh, I can't because I can't do this. It becomes a kind of a negative to trying to leap into that environment if you can't touch certain things that the testing requires.
And server access is kind of where that all resides.
Yeah.
One of the things I was using in the course by creating the author's catalog is to set up a test site on DigitalOcean and create a droplet of empty Koha system, save as a snapshot, set up a new system, just ruin it beyond recognition, destroy it, go back to the other. Think we could do something like that?
Yeah, I do the same thing. I've got a virtual, and I just snapshot it when I installed it, and that way I can easily roll back. And of course, if you know how to work with Git, it's also fairly easy to branch stuff and then return to master. But not everybody knows how to do that. So I agree. Yeah, right. Just a very simple server.
And I'm not suggesting that we have necessarily. I mean, there could be different levels of sandboxes, but I'm not suggesting that we have a sandbox where we can get necessarily into the command lines. But I mean, if there were common things that we have to do during some tests, if there were switches where we say, okay, we need to have this thing run. If there are things that we can safely do that we could turn into switches on the sandbox, this needs to be done, this process needs to be done, and they don't have to have knowledge of Git or command line codes or whatever. Anything that we could do to streamline that process is going to make it easier for people to test things. I mean, there are countless times when I can't do something because I'm supposed to, it deals with email or something, and we have no real mechanism for testing emails in a sandbox. We have no real mechanism for doing some of the things with the database on the back end that they sometimes ask us to do. I can't think of specific things off the top of my head, but sometimes they ask us to reindex or do some of these things.
Sometimes they say restart Zebra or something like that.
Yeah.
Apply the patch, then restart Zebra after you do this. Is that an example?
Yeah.
So if we could get a list of those things, that would really help us to designing a more, user-friendly, less technically based sandbox. Access isn't an issue. We just need to set you up on something that's separate from our cloud hosting platform for security reasons, and then we'll give you access. So that's not a problem. But if you could get me a list of those things and I can pass it on to our developers, that would be fantastic. Because we would love to help with this in any way we can.
Well, as I run across these things, I will keep note of them and I will shoot those off to you. And anybody else,
if you want me to create a Google Doc and share it with you, you can just add to it as needed.
Okay.
Yeah, but I love Ben's name. It's going to be Sandbox Plus.
Yeah.
Good idea. Okay, yeah, let's see. So we kind of went on from conference recap into bugs, putting bug testing in your routine. So we kind of covered that, but that's cool. Anything else from the conference? Or am I looping back too far? Oh, I know what I was going to say. I think I observed that as you have a larger group, you're going to develop tracks. So you're going to have, when we get larger, you're going to have a newbie track because there are people that aren't going to get to the level that we just were in, but they certainly need to be introduced to the whole Koha community and ecosystem. And the more buy-in they get, the more successful their implementation, and over the long run, it's going to benefit the whole project. So I don't know. I just think that will be exciting, when we get enough people to kind of hit critical mass for tracks.
Do we have a resource out there that breaks down, at least for the United States, the Koha users, what types of libraries are involved? Because it'd be interesting to know things like, how many of the Koha installations are used in a consortium, how many are in public libraries, how many are in school libraries. We had people there that were with law libraries. If we had that kind of information, we could hone our conference better and have some tracks that maybe deal more with the stuff that these groups need rather than just one big lump of presentations that may or may not have anything to do with what they're doing.
Chris, I think you're going to find that Bywater probably has at least 90% of all the, if not more, I'm just thinking, the people who are running it independent, but at least 90% of all the vendor-supported libraries. And you're going to find a selection across the board. If you even go to our site, you're going to be able to see full cross-section of just about every one of those types of libraries, from special to consortium, public, academic, everything. So
I could actually give you a breakdown percentage-wise, if you'd like, for our customers.
That would be awesome.
And then the Koha Community Wiki also has a table of all of the North American, United States libraries with type included. So public, academic, special, library system. We're there. And it's even updated to George being the
Yes, it
So-
is updated, but it is on a volunteer basis. It doesn't include everybody. So
I think probably putting the two together, what Nate offered, and then this might give you a fairly complete.
Yeah, I can run it down right now if you like.
Okay.
And this is percentage of contracts, not sites. Okay. Because one contract could have 70 sites. Academic libraries represent 31% of our customer base. Public libraries represent 35% of our customer base. School libraries represent 8% of our customer base. That's like high school and elementary.
How does that differ from the first one you said was academic?
Yeah, like colleges and universities.
Okay.
And that also includes law, academic law, and academic law and medical law. I don't have it broken down that granularly, but I could get that information for you. Special libraries like museums, things like that, corporate constitute 21% of our customer base. And consortia, which could also be lumped into publics, depending on how you want to look at it, represent 5%.
Wow. Okay.
But when you look at sites, the consortia actually eclipses most of the others. So
right.
Okay.
And those are rough. That's just kind of like what I keep.
I think also, maybe we could put out encouraging libraries to check the wiki, and if they're not on there, to get that information input so that it will be more accurate.
What kind of venue do you envision for yourself besides having a website or web page where you can start to attract more people, and then you can start, or we can start as koha-US, we can start pushing our message. I kind of have difficulty with this because I represent Bywater, and as much as I want to be a part of koha-US, I don't want it to seem like, I'm here in a different capacity. I want to be a representative of koha-US as well as separate myself from Bywater as being representative of Bywater. What do you guys see as you trying to push your message, and to what extent, of course, it's going to be koha-US? Are you doing anything? Are you trying to come up with any tools that help other people to find out more about Koha besides just our normal venues?
I think we need to have more of a presence with more of the events, the conferences that go on, PLA, ALA, all those things. I think, I know that Koha has a presence, and Bywater and so forth, but it would probably serve our interests to have a representative represent the user group as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I think it kind of depends on who's going and that kind of thing. But I know that were I to be going to CLA, I would be interested in representing koha-US in some format. I mean, even if it's just some kind of a meetup, it's a good place to start.
And we do that at our state conference. We have at the Kansas Library Association conference, we usually have a meetup of all the Koha users in the state at some point during the conference. And I think Jason Robb puts that together for us. So, we could be doing that in our individual states as well to help, if not be a vendor, then at least to have a meetup and have a place where people can come and ask questions.
Yeah, and I think something else to do with those types of things, because we're going to have one at KLA in October, is to bring back a report to the whole user group and just talk about what we talked about for the Kansas library so that we're all on the same page.
Yeah, that's a great idea, because that'll help those of us who haven't done it to know what the salient topics are. Very good idea.
I think it would be in our best interest to be able to have some materials that we put together about the group and the conference that can be shared and handed out if we're at conferences. Maybe something online that can be printed out for any one of us that is attending and is going to represent this group. And even if we're not, I'm wondering, I don't know what if there are any issues around this, but I'm wondering if we don't have one of us there, if others that are there representing Koha in some capacity would include information, brochures or whatever about the group, if they would include that at their table or whatever. So there's got to be some ways that we can get ourselves known out there outside of our lists and emails.
In about 2 weeks, I'm going to be going to the Tri-Chapter Conference for the Medical Library Association for Mid-Atlantic and a couple of others, and I'm going to have about 15 minutes to talk about the author's catalog. So if you can get something to me next week, some sort of brochure about what is Koha. Obviously, I'm going to have to explain it a little bit, but I only have 13 minutes. And I can put up, I'm going to make my slideshow available. I can include more Koha information, and of course, that's linked to Koha Community and koha-US.
Well, even if we don't, if you just share your experience with the user group and point out where our wiki is and what we do and what has transpired at the annual conference, that's a start. So if we don't have anything thrown together by that point, by all means, please at least share your experience and get us known just by word of mouth.
Certainly. Oh, I'm also putting in an application to talk about it at Computers and Libraries next April.
Cool. Is that the one in DC?
Yes.
Yeah, we're submitting a proposal for that as well with another one of our customers. So hopefully we get some good presents. Christopher, I shared that document with you, so feel free to share it with more people and add as needed.
Okay.
Okay.
Really quick, I'll go ahead and, I guess, for lack of a better word, solicit the mailing list, the Koha listservs, to see or to ask people to please update or register their institutions on the koha-US wiki.
Okay. Let's see. Conference planning timeline. So I know last year we said we're going to get an earlier start. So it's not too early to talk about it, but I haven't really thought much about it myself. Robin's smiling. So,
do we still want to stick with the east-west pattern?
We did not put in a presentation or a proposal because of Heather's leaving and George coming right at the time we would have been planning the conference, but Lawrence does plan on submitting a proposal for next year, so that would be a Midwest.
Yeah, it sort of just happened that it's bounced back and forth, but I think it is time for the center to get their turn.
So. And I know Joel sometimes.
Go ahead.
I was going to say Joel up north in Wisconsin, Minnesota. Thank you. One of those northern states above me. He sometimes puts in a proposal as well. So those are a couple of Midwestern options that I think we'll have for this round. The first thing to do with the conference is actually to start soliciting the proposals. And this is what, September? We should probably have that going by next month, if not November.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that is true.
So that's something.
Yeah, I remember what the issue was. We wanted to get a location early enough for folks to get it into their budget process. And I know ours starts earlier and earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I have to know what I'm doing in 2020 practically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That-
I think what we wanted to do was have a location chosen. When did we do that this year? Was it February? March?
Can't remember.
Chris, you're muted. I can just.
It was pretty late. You can't read lips. Come on.
I could with the earlier.
I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. No, it was pretty late as far as conferences go, and it just happened that way. I know that we were mired in some ways with the we're trying to establish our organization as an organization instead of just a group of people meeting together. So we had the bylaws and things like that to worry about as well. But it was pretty late comparatively.
Okay. Well, why don't we set up kind of a timeline? Well, I guess the first thing is setting up a committee. Who wants to be on the conference planning committee? And once we get that going, then a timeline of when we'll have the request for proposals out, when we'll decide on which, have the voting, and then announcing of the proposal of the proposed site winner. And then at that point, I think we always did that, and then we created the conference committee with the proposal lead being the chair. But I think it would probably be best if we had the committee in place before we made the decision. And then that person could then become the chair of the existing committee. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So, obviously we need to have those proposals for venues. We need the committee. And the thing that we need early on as well is topics and tracks. The sooner that we get that, the more people will know if they're going to attend or not, and can prepare for that and plan for it and get budgets in line and stuff. So those are three things that we need to have done ASAP, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, because you're going to attract people. If they don't know what the conference is about, I know in some cases we actually require staff to submit the conference topics before we approve something. So I mean, we don't want to send them to a conference we don't know anything about. So with that, I guess we need to definitely put that on our next agenda to get started. And maybe we can try and set a goal to have selected our location in December. Is that because I know for me I would need to know in December.
I know that it was something like that last year. We had a December we had a December deadline, and we only got like 1 or 0 submissions, so we extended it another month into January.
That's right.
So we can aim for it, but we just need to remember to be flexible a little bit.
And just get the information out there. So, I mean, we've got 18 people here who are going to hopefully go back to their organizations and talk about whether or not they want to put in a proposal. And we just need to get the request for proposals out pretty quickly.
So I would like to move that that by the next meeting next month, that we have a committee formed for the conference, and at least a date set for when we'll get the site proposal requests out.
Okay. Second that.
All right. I guess everyone is in favor. Nobody's going to say nay, right?
Well, you got them all muted, so.
Right. I guess unmute yourself and say nay if you don't want that. This is a good way to run a country. We'll just mute everybody. All right.
Power of the mute.
Okay, well, maybe we can send out a request for committee meeting members on the mailing list and get it started that way. I can do that.
Oh, great. Thank you. Okay.
I can see we're approaching 9:30 here at my time. We're approaching the half-hour mark here, or the hour mark for the meeting. But there was one other item on the list. Maybe we can table it till next time. The new KOHA members and mentorship. I think we should focus more of that. This was a good meeting today. We had a lot to talk about, but I think we should develop a plan of action for reaching out to those new members and inviting them into the fold. I'm loving the turnout here today and hope to see that increase. I mean, it's incredible. I see 18 participants here, and some of them are in the room together, so they're not even getting counted. So
I have to say, I kind of expected coming into a room with anywhere from 35 to 50 people, so I'm a little surprised. So yeah, we definitely need to beef this up. And I wonder if even using the partner list, the Bywater partner list, to try to get people in. Nate, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we'll do anything you guys need. We're here as a support system for you guys. You know, we didn't want to crash the party, but I wanted to be on this to take notes on your high importance bugs and who we could do for assistance, really. It's kind of the fly on the wall so that we can jump on that and issues that we can take care of quickly for you.
Well, just to give you some perspective, pre-conference meetings generally had about 7 people. So 18 is more than doubling our usual attendance. So we're quite happy to see everyone here.
yeah,
I think it's great. Yeah, this is good.
Nate, we love having you here too. You know,
Great.
we love having
Always
you stop by anytime, even if you're just watching. And hopefully, because I threw out this agenda, and it was just things off the top of my head, and I would like to see more discussion about the bugs and what's of concern, so that we have more to give you. And
Yeah, I mean, if I can make a suggestion, highlighting that on the announcement for this meeting, I think would be a good motivator to get people here, because if people are bothered by something, they're very, very willing to talk about it, and that's what we want. I mean, that's a good thing. Quiet and unhappy users are the worst because there's nothing we can do to fix it. So, if this is a good forum that's non-threatening and it's filled with users, not vendors, I think highlighting that, come to the meeting to talk about what is bothering you. I think that would get a lot more people to come here.
Okay.
Definitely. And then we aren't developing our solutions in a vacuum that undoes something somebody else did or changes the workflow or whatever. Okay, so as Christopher said, it's 9:30. We did have a resolution that Fred wanted to have us vote on.
Yeah, the one on the Monterey.
Which I read, and it sounded fine. So
Yeah, I will admit she is my cousin, but I think they all did a fantastic job. And I think it would be really good publicity for the library to let the Monterey City Council know.
Yeah, they did
Yeah. I guess what we should probably do is, Fred, if you wouldn't mind reading it into the official meeting, and then we can vote yay or nay. And I don't know if you guys see the raise your hand thing on the participants list, but you can raise your hand for yay.
Let's see. Trying to figure out how to get back to my computer.
Or we could do what Chris did earlier, and just if you don't agree, say nay. Either way, but that way we can we can get that done and taken care of and officially
Okay, here we go.
approved.
Read it, as in actually speak it.
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah, I copied this from the ALA resolution form. Whereas koha is an open source library software system used by libraries throughout the world, and whereas the Monterey Public Library uses koha as its software system, and whereas the Monterey Public Library bid to host the 2016 annual meeting of the koha-US Users Group and was chosen by vote of its membership, and whereas Inga Waite, director of the Monterey Public Library, and the staff of the Monterey Public Library provided meeting space, equipment, food, and beverages to the koha-US conference attendees, and whereas the staff of the Pacific Grove Public Library opened their doors to the koha-US conference attendees for a special reception and tour of their library, now therefore be it resolved that the koha-US Users Group, on behalf of its members, 1, express their thanks to Inga Waite and the staffs of the Monterey Public Library and the Pacific Groves Public Library for their extraordinary contributions to making the 2016 koha-US Users Group Conference a success, and 2, deliver a copy of this resolution to the Monterey City Council.
Okay, so anyone... if anyone, why don't we just go ahead and do that? If anyone objects, please say nay. All righty, we will consider it approved and officially accepted. And one of us at some point, Fred, will get that to Inga. I don't know if you want to go ahead and do that so that she can send it to the Monterey Council as a, I don't know how we'll do that, but we'll figure that out.
Okay, I'll be in touch.
Okay, all right.
Is there a koha-US letterhead?
Yes, actually there is. Now that I think about it, we did create it for something that we did officially. I think for the becoming a organization, so association. So I've got it here somewhere. I'll find it and get it to you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Well, I think that is everything, and thank you everyone for coming, and we look forward to seeing you next time. And are we going to talk about the date for the next meeting now? Or we might want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should do that.
Pull up my calendar here. Looks like it's you. I've got 10:30 on the 12th of October.
Okay.
That's Central.
I will not be able to attend that one.
I got to run. Everybody have a great day. Thanks for letting us join.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, let's see.
Is that's
the date I was planning on.
Okay.
Looks good to me.
All right. Well, we'll just have to let Christopher know what we talked about and what we assigned to him.
Just record it.
Okay. Will do.
All right. Well, on that note, I'm going to stop recording this.